I flew to Boston without warning and found my son dying alone in a burn unit. His wife was at a spa retreat in the Bahamas, so I destroyed her entire world in 48 hours. By the end, she was begging on her knees in a hospital parking lot. I am Raymond Cross, 64 years old, and for 40 years I built one of the largest commercial real estate empires on the East Coast. I thought I had seen every kind of betrayal in business. I thought nothing could shock me anymore. I was wrong. Before I tell you how I dismantled a woman's life piece by piece, please like and subscribe to Obsidian Vengeance, and tell me in the comments which state you are watching from. I want to know how far this story of a father's justice travels. The call came at 3 in the morning. Nothing good ever comes at 3 in the morning. I was in my penthouse in Manhattan, the one overlooking Central Park, when my phone lit up with a number I did not recognize. Normally I would have ignored it, but something made me answer. A voice I did not know said the words that changed everything. Your son Marcus has been in an industrial accident. He is at Massachusetts General Hospital. He is not expected to survive the night. I do not remember getting dressed. I do not remember calling my driver. I only remember sitting in the back of my car as it tore through the empty streets toward Teterboro Airport, where my jet was waiting. The flight to Boston took 47 minutes. It felt like 47 years. I kept trying to call my daughter-in-law, Vanessa. I called her 7 times. Each call went straight to voicemail. Her voice, cheerful and rehearsed, telling me to leave a message and she would get back to me as soon as possible. As soon as possible. My son was dying, and she could not be bothered to answer her phone. When I arrived at the hospital, the sun was just starting to rise over the harbor. The burn unit was on the 4th floor. I walked past nurses and doctors who looked at me with that particular expression. Medical professionals reserved for families of the dying. Pity mixed with professional distance. I found his room. I pushed open the door, and my heart, which I thought had turned to stone after decades of corporate warfare, shattered into 1,000 pieces. Marcus lay there, wrapped in bandages from his chest to his face. The monitors beeped a slow, terrifying rhythm. His hands, the hands that used to grip mine when he was a little boy crossing the street, were wrapped in white gauze stained with yellow fluid. The smell was something I will never forget. Burned flesh and antiseptic. The smell of my son being consumed by his own wounds. But that was not what made my blood turn to ice. It was the chair. The chair next to his bed was empty. Not just empty. It was pushed against the wall. Untouched. Cold. There were no flowers on the nightstand. There was no half-eaten meal on the tray. There was no coat draped over the back. There was no sign that anyone had been there to hold his hand while he screamed in agony. My son was dying alone. I stood there, gripping the doorframe so hard my knuckles cracked. A nurse walked in behind me, a young man with kind eyes and a tablet in his hands. He stopped when he saw me. "Are you family?" he asked softly. "I am his father," I said. My voice sounded like gravel being crushed. "Where is his wife? Where is Vanessa?" The nurse hesitated. That hesitation told me everything I needed to know. In my world, silence is never empty. Silence is an answer. It is usually the worst answer. "She left about 6 hours ago," the nurse said carefully. She said she could not handle seeing him like this. She said she needed to clear her head. She told us she was going to the chapel to pray for his recovery. To pray. The word hung in the air like a sick joke. I looked at Marcus. 3 years ago I had given him and Vanessa a gift when they got married. I gave them a brownstone in Back Bay worth $4 million. I gave them startup capital for their interior design business. I gave them everything because I wanted my son to be happy. I wanted him to have a partner who would stand beside him through anything. Instead, it seemed I had financed a lifestyle for a parasite. "She went to pray," I repeated. My tone was flat, disbelieving. "Yes, sir," the nurse said. He did not look convinced either. She seemed very upset. She said she was going to a retreat center to find spiritual guidance. I nodded slowly. I pulled out my phone. My hands were steady now. The shock had passed. In its place was something colder, something sharper. I knew Vanessa. I knew the woman who spent more on handbags than most people spent on cars. I knew the woman who had never stepped foot in a church except for her wedding day. Vanessa did not pray. Vanessa did not do spiritual retreats. Vanessa did spa weekends and shopping trips. I dialed her number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. I watched my son's chest rise and fall, driven by machines, while I waited for the woman who had promised to love him in sickness and in health to answer her phone. Raymond, her voice came through. She was whispering. It was a theatrical whisper, the kind designed to sound like grief. Oh, Raymond, it is just so hard. I cannot bear to see him like that. All those bandages. The sounds he makes. I had to get away. I am at a spiritual wellness center in Connecticut. I am meditating for his recovery. I am sending him healing energy. It was a good performance. Almost believable. Except for one thing. Vanessa was careless. She had not muted her background properly. Beneath her fake sniffling, I heard something. It was not the quiet hum of a meditation room. It was not the gentle chanting of a wellness retreat. It was the rhythmic splash of water, the clink of glasses, and laughter. A man's laughter, deep and carefree. "You are at a wellness center?" I asked. My eyes narrowed as I looked at the heart monitor, tracking my son's struggle for life. "Yes, Raymond," Vanessa lied. "It is very peaceful here. I am doing breath work. I am centering myself so I can be strong for Marcus when he wakes up. Please tell me there is good news." "There is news, Vanessa," I said. My voice dropped to a register that used to make billionaires sweat across negotiating tables. "Stay where you are. Keep meditating. I will handle everything here." I hung up before she could say another word. I stood in the silence of the burn unit, but my head was full of noise. I looked at my son one last time. I brushed my hand over the part of his forehead that was not bandaged. His skin was hot with fever. "I promise you, Marcus," I whispered, "she will not get away with this." I walked out of the room and signaled to my head of security, a former Secret Service agent named Cole who was waiting in the corridor. "Find her," I ordered. "We already have, sir," Cole replied, handing me a tablet. "The GPS on her phone is not in Connecticut. She is in Nassau, the Bahamas." I looked at the map. The blinking blue dot was stationary at an oceanfront resort, the same resort I had given them a membership to as an anniversary gift. "She is not meditating," Cole confirmed. "She checked in yesterday with a man named Derek Vaughn. He is her personal trainer. They booked the honeymoon suite. She was not praying. She was not finding spiritual guidance. She was in the Bahamas with her lover while my son lay dying from burns that covered 60% of his body. The fury that filled me was not hot. It was absolute zero. It was the kind of cold that burns. I did not just want to hurt her. I wanted to erase her. I wanted to turn her existence into ash. Just then the chief surgeon came around the corner looking exhausted. He spotted me and rushed over. "Mr. Cross, thank God you are here," he said. "We need to perform emergency skin grafts immediately. The infection is spreading faster than we anticipated, but we have a problem. We need consent from his next of kin or medical proxy." I frowned. "His wife Vanessa, did she not sign the forms before she left?" The doctor shook his head. "That is the issue. She refused to sign anything. She said she wanted to wait and see if the surgery was really necessary. She said she needed to consult with her own doctors first. She told our legal department that she was worried about liability issues if the surgery made things worse." The world stopped. It was not just abandonment. It was not just an affair. She was stalling. She was letting the infection spread. She wanted him to die. I looked at the doctor. "How long does he have without the surgery?" The doctor hesitated. 24 hours, he said. "Maybe less. The sepsis will take over. His organs will start failing. The insurance policy." The realization hit me like a physical blow. The life insurance policy I had helped them set up. The one with the $3 million payout. The one where Vanessa was the sole beneficiary. She was not just cheating on my son. She was waiting for him to die so she could collect. She was using the medical system as her weapon. She was betting that I would be too slow, too emotional, too old to stop her. She did not know who she was dealing with. She thought I was just a rich old man who wrote checks. She forgot how I got rich. I did not get here by following rules. I said to the doctor. I got here by rewriting them. I pulled out my phone. This time, I did not call Vanessa. I called Evelyn, my personal attorney, a woman who had been with me for 30 years. A woman who had helped me destroy more competitors than I could count. Wake up, Evelyn, I said. We have a situation. Activate Protocol Black. I want Vanessa's life dismantled by sunrise tomorrow. I want her accounts frozen, her assets seized, and every skeleton in her closet dragged into the light. I am going to save my son. And then I am going to bury the woman who tried to kill him. This was not going to be a simple divorce. This was going to be an execution, and Vanessa had no idea that the executioner was already sharpening his blade. I hung up the phone. The silence in the burn unit felt heavier than concrete. Vanessa was meditating. She was sending healing energy. The lies poured from her mouth like sewage from a broken pipe. I did not scream. I did not put my fist through the wall, though every fiber of my being wanted to destroy something. In business, they called me the Granite Man, because I never let emotion crack my facade. Rage is useful fuel, but a terrible driver. I tapped my phone and dialed a number that was not in any public directory. Find everything, I said. I did not need to say a name. Cole knew exactly who I was talking about. We had been monitoring Vanessa's spending for months after Marcus mentioned some discrepancies in their joint accounts. But tonight, I needed more than credit card statements. I needed the full picture. On it, Cole replied. His voice was calm and efficient. Give me 2 hours. 2 hours. It felt like 2 centuries. I looked at Marcus. My only son, the boy who used to sit on my shoulders at baseball games. The man who chose to start his own business instead of joining my empire because he wanted to prove himself. I had respected that choice. I had been proud of that independence. And now he was lying here, fighting for his life, because the woman he loved saw him as nothing more than a life insurance policy. My phone buzzed. It was Evelyn. I found something, Raymond, she said. Her voice had that particular edge she got when she smelled blood in the water. The accident at the warehouse, the one that burned Marcus. I have been looking at the incident report. What about it? I asked. It was not supposed to happen, Evelyn said. The fire suppression system in the building was disabled 3 days before the accident. Someone bypassed the safety protocols. The fire marshal's initial report called it a malfunction, but I just got off the phone with an investigator I know. He says it looks deliberate. He says someone knew exactly which systems to disable to make sure a fire would spread fast. I felt my blood turn to ice water. The warehouse. It was one of the properties Marcus managed. One of the first major projects I had given him to prove he could handle responsibility. He was there that night doing a late inspection because he was that kind of hands-on owner. Are you saying someone set that fire on purpose? I asked. I am saying it is suspicious, Evelyn replied. And I am saying that Vanessa has been having an affair with Derek Vaughn for 8 months. And Derek Vaughn used to work in building maintenance before he became a personal trainer. He has a background in electrical systems. The pieces clicked together with a sound like a gunshot in my skull. It was not just neglect. It was not just hoping he would die. They had tried to kill him. They had set a trap, and my son walked right into it. I looked at Marcus. The burns covering his body were not an accident. They were an assassination attempt that failed. And now Vanessa was in the Bahamas, waiting by the pool for news that her husband had finally died so she could start spending his money. Keep digging, I told Evelyn. I want everything. Bank records, phone records, text messages. I want to know every time she met with Derek Vaughn. I want to know who disabled those fire systems. And Evelyn, I want you to find out exactly how much she stands to gain from my son's death. There was a pause. Raymond, Evelyn said slowly. There is something else. The life insurance policy. It was not the standard policy they had when they got married. She upgraded it 6 months ago, increased the payout from $3 million to $8 million, and she added an accidental death clause. If Marcus dies from an accident, she gets double, $16 million. $16 million, that was the price tag she had put on my son's life. That was what she thought he was worth. A number on a check. A payday that would fund her new life with her lover. How long until you have everything I need? I asked. Give me until morning, Evelyn said. I will have a file thick enough to bury her. Good, I said, because when the sun comes up, I am going to burn her world to the ground, and I am going to make sure she watches every flame. I spent the next 3 hours at my son's bedside. I held his hand, careful not to touch the bandaged areas. I talked to him even though he could not hear me. I told him about the time he hit his first home run in Little League. I told him about how proud I was when he graduated from business school. I told him I was sorry I had not seen through Vanessa sooner. I told him I would fix this. At 6 a.m, my phone rang. It was Evelyn. Raymond, she said, I have it, everything. I opened my laptop and she walked me through the file. It was worse than I could have imagined. The affair with Derek had started a year ago, not 8 months. There were hundreds of text messages between them, messages planning their future, messages discussing how they would spend the money, messages where Vanessa called my son a boring trust fund baby, and Derek called him a speed bump on the road to their happiness. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was the message from 3 weeks ago. The one where Derek wrote, "It is all set up. The inspection is scheduled for Thursday night. The system will be offline. All you have to do is make sure he is there, and then get yourself an alibi." And Vanessa had replied with one word: perfect. They had planned it, they had executed it, and they thought they had gotten away with it. I closed the laptop. I looked at my son, and I made a decision. I was not going to call the police. Not yet. The police would arrest her. She would lawyer up. She would make bail. She would spin a story about how she was manipulated by Derek. She would play the victim. No, I wanted something more than arrest. I wanted total destruction. I wanted her to lose everything before the handcuffs ever touched her wrists. I wanted her to be penniless and broken when they dragged her away. I picked up the phone and called Evelyn. "Execute Protocol Black," I said. "Start with the assets." Over the next 6 hours, I watched Vanessa's life collapse like a house of cards in a hurricane. The brownstone in Back Bay, the one I had given them as a wedding gift. It was in my son's name, but Vanessa had been living there as if it was hers. I had Evelyn file emergency papers citing the ongoing criminal investigation. The property was frozen pending investigation. Vanessa could not sell it. She could not refinance it. She could not even access the equity. The business accounts, the interior design company they ran together. I was the silent investor. I owned 40%. I called an emergency board meeting and voted to freeze all company assets pending an audit. Every dollar was locked. The joint bank accounts. As Marcus's father and emergency power of attorney, which I had set up years ago for exactly situations like this, I had the authority to freeze them. I did. Her personal credit cards. She had 3 of them. All of them had been co-signed by Marcus when they got married because her credit score was terrible. I called in the debts. All of them. Immediately due in full. Her car. The Mercedes SUV that Marcus had bought her for her birthday. It was leased under his name. I had it repossessed from the resort parking lot in Nassau. By noon, Vanessa went from a woman who thought she was about to inherit $16 million to a woman who could not buy a sandwich. Every card was declined. Every account was frozen. Every asset was locked. She was stranded in the Bahamas with nothing but the clothes on her back and a lover who was about to find out she was worthless. I got the call from Cole at 2 in the afternoon. "She knows something is wrong," he reported. "She has been trying to use her cards for the last hour. Nothing is working." She called the bank. They told her the accounts were frozen due to suspected fraud. "She is panicking." "Good," I said. "Let her panic. What about the boyfriend?" "Derek is already gone," Cole said with a hint of dark satisfaction. "He left the resort an hour ago, took a cab to the airport, booked a one-way flight to Mexico City. He is running." Of course he was. Derek was the kind of coward who could plan a murder from the shadows, but ran at the first sign of trouble. He had seen the writing on the wall. He knew the money was not coming, and without the money, Vanessa was just a liability. "She is alone now," Cole confirmed. "And she is trying to book a flight home, but her cards are not working. She cannot even pay for a taxi." I smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Book her a flight," I said. "First class. On my account. I want her back in Boston by tonight. I want her at that hospital. I want to see her face when she realizes what she has done. The trap was set. Now I just had to wait for the rat to walk into it. Vanessa arrived at Massachusetts General at 9 that evening. I watched her walk through the main entrance from a security feed on my tablet. She looked terrible. Her hair, usually immaculate, was tangled and unwashed. Her designer clothes were wrinkled from the flight. Her face was pale and drawn, the mask of the grieving wife hastily applied over the terror of the financially ruined. She made her way to the burn unit. She stopped at the nurse's station, asking about Marcus with a trembling voice. She was playing the part. The worried wife who had rushed back from her spiritual retreat as soon as she heard the news. The nurse directed her to his room. I was already there. I was sitting in the chair next to his bed, the chair that had been empty for 2 days. I looked up when she walked in, and I saw the moment she realized she was not walking into a hospital room. She was walking into a courtroom, and I was the judge. "Raymond," she gasped. Her hand flew to her chest. "Oh, thank God, you are here." I came as soon as I could. My phone died, and I did not get the messages, and I was at the retreat without any service, and by the time I found out, I had to wait for a flight, and— "Stop," I said. One word, quiet, final. She stopped. Her mouth hung open. The excuses died on her tongue. "Sit down, Vanessa," I said. She looked around the room. There was only one other chair, and it was across from me. She walked over slowly and sat down. Her eyes kept darting to Marcus, to the monitors, to the bandages. She was calculating. I could see the gears turning. How much longer, how much more damage could the infection do? Was there still a chance? "He is going to live," I said. Her eyes snapped to mine. There was a flicker of something in them. Was it relief? No, it was fear. "The surgery was successful," I continued. "The infection is under control. The doctors say he will need months of recovery and multiple skin grafts, but he will survive." She forced a smile. "That is wonderful news," she said. Her voice was hollow. "I have been so worried. I was praying every moment for this." "Were you?" I asked. "Were you praying when you booked the honeymoon suite in Nassau?" She went pale. "Were you sending healing energy when you were lying by the pool with Derek Vaughn?" "I know everything, Vanessa," I said. I pulled out my phone and placed it on the tray table between us. The messages, the affair, the insurance policy, the fire suppression system that mysteriously failed the night my son happened to be alone in that warehouse. She stared at the phone like it was a snake. "I do not know what you are talking about," she whispered. But the fight was already draining out of her. "You upgraded the life insurance policy 6 months ago," I said. $8 million. Double for accidental death. And then your boyfriend, the one with experience in building maintenance, just happened to disable the safety systems in my son's warehouse 3 days before the fire. She opened her mouth to deny it, but I held up my hand. I played the recording. Her own voice filled the room. "Perfect," one word, typed in response to a plan to murder my son. The sound that came out of her was not quite human. It was a whimper, a moan, the noise of a cornered animal realizing there was no escape. "You tried to kill him," I said. "You set a trap and you waited for him to walk into it. And when it did not work, when he did not die fast enough, you flew to the Bahamas to wait it out. You left him here alone, hoping the infection would finish what the fire started." She started to cry. The tears were real this time, not from grief, from terror. "Raymond," she sobbed, "please, I can explain. Derek made me do it. He manipulated me. I was scared of him. I did not know what to do." I leaned forward. The fury that I had kept contained for 2 days finally leaked through my voice. "Do not," I said slowly, "insult me with excuses. I have read every message. I have seen every transfer. I know exactly who planned this and who executed it. Derek is already gone. He ran the moment the money dried up. He is in Mexico now, trying to disappear. But you, Vanessa, you are not going anywhere." I stood up. I walked to the window and looked out at the Boston skyline. When I spoke again, my voice was calm. almost conversational. "Do you know what I did while you were sunbathing in Nassau?" I asked. She did not answer. "I froze every account you have access to. I repossessed your car. I locked the brownstone. I called in your credit card debts. As of right now, Vanessa, you have nothing. No money, no assets, no credit, no home. You cannot buy a cup of coffee. You cannot take a taxi. You are completely and utterly dependent on the mercy of others. And I am not feeling merciful." She was shaking now, trembling like a leaf in a storm. "Please," she whispered. "Raymond, I made a mistake. I will do anything. I will sign whatever you want. I will disappear. Just please do not." "Do not what?" I interrupted. "Do not call the police." I turned to face her. "The police are already involved, Vanessa. The fire marshal is reopening the investigation. The insurance company is launching a fraud inquiry. And in about 30 minutes, 2 detectives are going to walk through that door with an arrest warrant for attempted murder and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud." Her face crumpled. The mask of the beautiful, sophisticated wife dissolved into something ugly, something raw. "No," she screamed. "You cannot do this. I am his wife. I have rights. I will fight this. I will tell them you coerced me. I will tell them you planted evidence." I smiled. "The evidence is in your own words, Vanessa. Your own text messages. Your own voice. The only thing I did was make sure the right people saw it." Just then, there was a sound from the bed. A groan. A rustle of sheets. We both turned. Marcus was awake. His eyes, the only part of his face not covered in bandages, were open and fixed on his wife. He had heard everything. Vanessa rushed toward him, reaching out her hands. "Marcus, baby, it is not what it sounds like. I love you. I would never hurt you." I was confused. "Derek made me." "Get away from him," I commanded. She froze. Marcus was trying to speak. His lips, cracked and dry, formed words that barely made it past his throat. "I knew," he rasped. The room went silent. "What?" Vanessa whispered. "I knew," Marcus repeated. His voice was stronger now, fueled by something that looked like cold satisfaction. "About Derek. About the affair. I found out 2 months ago." Vanessa's face twisted in confusion. "Then why did you not—" "I was building a case," Marcus said. "I was documenting everything. I had a private investigator. I was going to divorce you and make sure you got nothing. But then the fire happened and I thought—" He coughed, a wet, painful sound. A nurse rushed in, checking his monitors, but he waved her away. "I thought I was going to die," he continued, "and all I could think about was that you would get away with it, that you would get my money and live happily ever after with that piece of garbage." He looked at me. "But Dad figured it out, did he not?" I nodded. "I figured it out." Marcus turned back to Vanessa. There was no love in his eyes, no pity. Just the cold, hard stare of a man who had been betrayed by the person he trusted most. "I want you to know something," he said. "The life insurance policy, the one you upgraded. You made one mistake." "What mistake?" Vanessa whispered. "I changed the beneficiary 3 weeks ago," Marcus said, "after I found out about Derek. The new beneficiary is not you, Vanessa. It is a burn victim's charity." The sound that came out of her was somewhere between a scream and a sob. She lunged at the bed, her hands reaching for Marcus. Whether to hurt him or beg him, I never found out, because that was when the door opened. 2 detectives walked in. Behind them were 2 uniformed officers. One of the detectives, a woman with silver hair and hard eyes, stepped forward. "Vanessa Cross," she said, "you are under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit arson, and insurance fraud. You have the right to remain silent." The officers grabbed Vanessa's arms. She thrashed and screamed, her carefully constructed facade completely shattered. "This is not fair," she shrieked. "I deserve that money. I put up with him for 4 years. I earned it." No one responded. The officers dragged her toward the door. She looked back at me one last time, her face contorted with hatred. "You think you have won," she spat. "You think you are so powerful, but you are just a sad old man who cannot accept that his son married a woman who was too good for him. I looked at her, really studied her, the woman I had welcomed into my family, the woman I had trusted with my son's heart, and I felt nothing but cold contempt. "You were never too good for him," I said. "You were not even good enough to be a decent human being. Enjoy prison, Vanessa. I hear the accommodations are somewhat less comfortable than the Bahamas." The door closed behind her. The screaming faded down the hallway, and then it was just me and my son, alone in the quiet hum of the machines. I sat down next to his bed. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. "Dad," Marcus finally said. His voice was weak, but there was something new in it, something that sounded like hope. "Thank you." I took his hand, careful to avoid the bandages. "You never have to thank me," I said. "You are my son. I would burn down the world to keep you safe." He smiled. It was a small smile, painful against his injuries, but it was real. "I know," he said. "That is why I called you first. Even before I passed out from the pain, I knew you would come. I knew you would fix it." I felt tears prick at my eyes. I had not cried in 20 years. Not since his mother's funeral. But sitting there in that hospital room, holding my son's hand, knowing how close I had come to losing him, the tears came anyway. We sat like that for a long time, father and son, survivor and protector. In the weeks that followed, the full scope of Vanessa's betrayal became clear. The investigation revealed that she and Derek had been planning the murder for months. They had researched fire suppression systems. They had scouted the warehouse. They had created a detailed timeline to ensure Marcus would be alone when the fire started. Derek was arrested in Mexico 3 weeks later. He tried to fight extradition but failed. He is currently awaiting trial on charges of attempted murder, arson, and conspiracy. His lawyer is trying to cut a deal by blaming everything on Vanessa. They are throwing each other under the bus. It is almost poetic. Vanessa's trial is scheduled for next spring. She tried to plead not guilty. She tried to claim coercion. But the text messages do not lie. Her own words will be her undoing. She is looking at 25 years to life. As for Marcus, he spent 4 months in the hospital. The skin grafts were successful. The scars will be permanent, but he is alive. He is healing, and he is stronger than he has ever been. Last week he called me from his new apartment in Cambridge. He is starting over. New city, new life. No more interior design business. He is going back to school, studying fire safety engineering. He wants to prevent what happened to him from happening to anyone else. "Dad," he said during that call, "I have been thinking a lot about what you taught me over the years. About business, about power, about how to deal with enemies." "What about it?" I asked. "You always said that the best revenge is not destroying your enemy," he said. "It is making them watch while you build something beautiful from the ashes they created." I smiled. "And what are you going to build?" He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "A life worth living. One that has nothing to do with money or power or revenge, just meaning, just purpose." It was the proudest moment of my life. Prouder than any business deal. Prouder than any victory. Because my son had learned the lesson that took me 60 years to understand. Wealth is a tool. It can protect. It can destroy. But it cannot give you meaning. Only you can do that. I turn to face you now. You who have followed this story from the burn unit to the courtroom. You might think this is just a story about a rich man and his problems. But it is not. It is a story about seeing people for who they really are. It is a story about trusting your instincts when something feels wrong. It is a story about what a parent will do to protect their child. Take a good look at the people around you. The ones who smile too much. The ones who ask about your finances a little too often. The ones who are there for the champagne but vanish when the hospital calls. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it is. And if you ever find yourself in a situation where someone tries to hurt your family, remember my story. Document everything. Build your case. Close the trap. Do not give them a warning. Do not give them a chance to run. Strike fast. Strike hard. And make sure they never get back up. One last thing. A personal note from Raymond Cross. If you are watching this and you think you can target my family because we seem like easy marks, think again. I might be 64 years old. I might have gray hair and reading glasses, but I am not a victim. Do not ever touch my family, because I do not just have money. I have patience, I have resources, and I have a memory that never forgets. If you cross the line, I will not just sue you. I will dismantle you. I will wait until you think you are safe, until you think you have gotten away with it, and then I will turn off the lights. This is Raymond Cross, signing off. If you learned something today, if you believe in justice served cold, hit that like button and subscribe to Obsidian Vengeance. Share this story. Let it be a warning to the wolves that the lions are still awake. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and never ignore the warning signs.